say one thing, he says another, and everybody changes back again.
Do you sometimes feel like you just don't belong? Like the whole world was against you? In the 1950s, one man gave a voice to the millions of restless American youth who felt the same way as you. James Dean. From a tiny Indiana town, this brooding young man rocketed to fame with his first major movie role. Teenagers ran to theaters, completely taken over by Dean's portrayal of troubled misfits they could relate to. Here was a star who embodied their anger and alienation from society. In just 3 groundbreaking films, James Dean left an unbeatable legacy. But it was his shocking death at 24 that truly cemented his iconic rebel status. When the news broke that Dean had passed in a brutal car crash, an entire generation's grief could be felt. Youth across America mourned the loss of the defiant hero who validated their struggles. For them, James Dean wasn't just an actor, he personified the restless spirit of their age. His tragic end marked the passing of a once-in-a-lifetime talent who spoke for the voiceless. This dude was a total icon for restless teenagers everywhere. With his messy hair, brooding stare, and simple white t-shirt, James Dean looked like the ultimate bad boy. But his wild side didn't stop at acting. This guy was absolutely obsessed with fast cars and street racing. It was 1955 and the 24-year-old acting sensation was living life at full power, both on and off the big screen. Dean and his mechanic buddy Wutherich were California bound. The young star's baby blue Porsche Spyder speeding through the highway. Their destination? A car race. But fate had a different race in mind for the star that day. As Dean's racy little Porsche approached an intersection along the 2-lane blacktop, his eyes locked onto an oncoming car. He said, "That guy's got to stop, he'll see us." But the other driver, just a 23-year-old student, failed to pay heed. In the blink of an eye, the 2 cars collided head-on. Just like the misfit characters he portrayed on screen, Dean suffered a tragically violent demise. His battered body was no match for the injuries he succumbed to inside. Dean's biggest dream came true when he bought himself a super rare Porsche Spyder sports car, the very car that took him to his end. At the time, there were only 5 of these in the United States. Under the hood, this baby had a 110 horsepower engine that could go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 7 seconds. Dean nicknamed his new prized possession Little Bastard. And man, that name couldn't be more fitting for the trouble it caused. In just 1 week of owning the Porsche, Dean had already crashed it not once but twice. But that did not stop the rebel James Dean. No way. Instead of learning his lesson, he got it in his head to drive the Little Bastard over 300 miles from Los Angeles all the way to Salinas for an upcoming race. Now, most sensible racers would just put their cars on a trailer. He really wanted to feel the Porsche's power on the open road. So on September 30th, 1955, James Dean and his buddy Wutherich hit the highway, with some other racing buddies following behind in a station wagon, towing an empty trailer just in case. Along the way, they actually got pulled over and ticketed for speeding. But of course, that didn't slow Dean down one bit. The group made a pit stop at Blackwell Corner to refuel and stretch their legs. Little did they know their road trip was about to take a tragic, life-altering turn just down the road. After a quick pit stop at Blackwell's Corner, James Dean and his crew hit the road again, planning to meet up for dinner once they reached the town of Paso Robles. Dean was cruising along Route 466 in his Porsche Spyder, going about 60 miles per hour. At the same time, a 23-year-old student, named Donald Turnipseed, was driving a 1950 Ford in the opposite direction on that same 2-lane highway. Turnipseed approached an intersection where he needed to make a left turn. He started slowing down to make the turn across the other lane. A big factor worked against Turnipseed's ability to see Dean's tiny Porsche coming towards him. The sun was blazingly bright and low in the sky, shining right into Turnipseed's eyes as he drove, making it really hard to see clearly down the road. Another issue was that Dean's Porsche was super small and compact, especially compared to other cars back then. So it was pretty difficult to spot, especially with that glaring sunlight. As Turnipseed started making his turn left across the lanes, Dean's little Porsche suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Turnipseed slammed on his brakes, but it was too late. Dean tried swerving to avoid the Ford, but the 2 cars smashed right into each other head-on at full speed. It was a devastating crash caused simply by poor visibility. With the blinding sun and Dean's tiny sports car, Turnipseed just couldn't see the Porsche coming until it was way too late to stop the collision from happening. Terrible timing. The terrible crash badly injured Dean, even though he wasn't going faster than the 55 miles per hour speed limit. At just 24 years old, the famous actor died after getting to the hospital. While his life was cut very short, Dean's shocking death at such a young age made him an everlasting legend and icon. just like the actor Paul Walker many years later. James Dean's tragic death at the age of 24 cut short a promising career and left a profound impact on Hollywood. Known for his iconic roles in films like East of Eden, Rebel Without a Cause, and Giant, Dean was not just a talented actor, but also a symbol of youthful rebellion and free spirit. Many were quick to assume that his fatal car crash was a result of reckless speeding, but the truth revealed a different story. He was driving safely. This made it more heartbreaking to his untimely passing, as it showed that even the most cautious of drivers could fall victim to unforeseen circumstances. Despite his short time in the spotlight, James Dean's legacy lives on, with fans around the world still captivated by his charisma. In 2019, some haunting images from that tragic day went up for auction, offering a chilling glimpse into the aftermath of the accident that claimed Dean's life. The collection includes 12 overhead views of the crash site and 18 ground-level photos, some of which provide close-up details of the mangled vehicles and the devastating scene. Among the haunting images of that day is a photograph that captures a moment in James Dean's final hours. Taken at a gas station in Sherman Oaks, Los Angeles, it shows Dean fueling up on his way to the race he never reached. This image is known to be one of the last known pictures of the star alive. It brings out a sense of tragedy, doesn't it? One can't help but wonder about the stories behind these photos. What was going through Dean's mind as he sat behind the wheel of his beloved Porsche? Or how Wutherich, his mechanic, felt surviving the crash that claimed his friend's life. These images were taken mere hours after the accident. What secrets could the wreckage of James Dean's Porsche reveal about the tragic events of that day? Wutherich planned to sue the insurance companies of both Dean and Donald Turnipseed for his injuries. Wutherich suffered a double fractured jaw and a severely torn left hip, which required multiple surgeries. A signed letter of provenance from Robert A. Coyle sheds light on the fate of the photographs. Coyle's father, Robert Everett Coyle, was the attorney for Turnipseed and his insurance company. The letter explains that after the legal case was dropped, Coyle Sr. ensured the preservation of the photos rather than their destruction. The story becomes even more captivating with the disappearance of Dean's wrecked Porsche. After being displayed as a highway safety exhibit on a national tour, the car vanished during transportation from Florida to California. The Volo Auto Museum outside Chicago has offered a $1 million reward for the car's wreckage, claiming to have received a credible tip about its location in 2014. Apparently, James Dean's Porsche was finally found hidden behind a false wall in a building in Whatcom County, Washington, as claimed by a man who was just 6 years old at the time of the accident. Despite passing a polygraph test regarding the details of his story, the man has yet to reveal the location of the building, insisting on a signed deal for a portion of the museum's reward money before disclosing its whereabouts. Officer O.T. Hunter, who issued Dean a speeding ticket just 2 hours before the crash, claimed that the actor was indeed speeding well above the limit. Hunter even kept the ticket, framed as a memento. However, the ticket was deemed void following Dean's tragic death. Despite this, no one was held responsible for the collision. In a surprising twist, it was later determined that Donald Turnipseed, the driver of the other vehicle involved, was at fault. Does this mean the initial cause of the accident was false? The details surrounding James Dean's tragic accident are not just sad, but they're also full of twists. When the crash happened, Wutherich was thrown out of the Porsche as it spun through the air. Meanwhile, Dean remained trapped inside as the car crumpled upon landing. Despite the efforts of first responders, Dean was pronounced dead at 6:20 p.m. with a litany of injuries, including broken bones, severe lacerations, fractures in his jaw, and internal damage. The coroner determined that a broken neck from the impact was the cause of his death. A compelling twist, a TV show called Autopsy: The Last Hours Of, went into Dean's final moments. Forensic expert Dr. Michael Hunter speculated that Dean might have had a better chance of survival if a neck brace had been applied before transporting him to the hospital. Reports indicate that Dean had to be extracted from the wreckage with a crowbar, with one foot wedged between the pedals. Despite being unconscious, he was still breathing when the ambulance arrived. However, the ambulance ride was not without its drama, as it collided with another vehicle on the way to the hospital. This, coupled with the lack of a neck brace, significantly decreased Dean's chances of survival, according to Dr. Hunter. Despite the shocking details of his final moments, we must remember that Dean's legacy is more than the circumstances of his death. While the crash may have ended his life prematurely, it has ignited a timeless flame that still burns bright. As we revisit that fateful day, let's celebrate James Dean for the fearless spirit that he embodied on and off the screen. Rest in peace, James Dean. Your legend lives on. That brings us to the end of today's video. If you enjoyed our content, consider subscribing to our channel to stay connected with us. Thank you for watching this video. We'll see you on the next one.